You've tuned into Radio Northern Beaches. We live stream on rnb.org.au across the northern beaches of New South Wales, Australia and all over the world. You can also catch us local on 88.7 and 90.3 FM. Our podcasts are available at your convenience at rnb.org.au or rnbpodcast.com.au. So you and your friends don't miss any episodes. Don't forget to follow and share. Now here's our latest podcast.
Welcome to the Grit Diaries, From Grit to Grace with Mon and Maz, the show where we dive deeply into the stories of resilience, of courage, and the journey from struggle to triumph. My name is Maz, and each week we sit down with extraordinary people who have faced life's toughest challenges, and really only to emerge stronger and wiser. From personal setbacks to profound comebacks, these are the stories that remind us all of the power within. Whether you're looking for a spark of hope, a dose of motivation, or a reminder that you're not alone, you've come to the right place. This is the Grit Diaries, From Grit to Grace. Let's get inspired.
Hello, you've reached Grit Diaries, Mon and Maz show from Radio Northern Beaches 88.7 and 90.3. We are really chuffed today because we've got someone very special, Melanie Hogan, to talk to us. She's a filmmaker, a homegrown filmmaker from Avalon. And she's got some beautiful stories and honestly, the history of the films that she's made are just absolutely stunning. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to you, Mel. Welcome, Mel.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, lovely to have you
Mel.
here. And welcome, Maz, my co-producer. How are you?
I'm great, Mon.
Yeah.
Great to be back in the hot seats again.
Yeah, thank you. Well, welcome. Mel, I'd really like to hear a little bit about your story, a little bit about where you've come from and how you got to filmmaking. That's what everybody will want to hear. So tell us a bit about that.
So I was a kid in Avalon, definitely one of those kids running around on the rocks at North Avalon and up and down those sand dunes when we were allowed.
The best life.
It was the best life. Went to university and studied economics right up to honours year. So definitely was it was a challenge because I was always a creative kid. I was a ballerina and a painter, but still had this kind of strong other side of my brain that liked the maths.
Oh, you had a good balance of left and right.
Which was
That's
kind
unusual.
of good, but kind of a bit challenging because I didn't know where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So when I finished uni, I went off and studied, economics and finance. And I do remember my English teacher coming to me when she heard I was going to study that, and she was crying. She's like, "What are you doing? You should be doing English." And because it was my favourite subject at school. And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just going to do it." I think it was at that era where women were, if you did quite well at school, you're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or for some reason I thought, I'll just do finance because then that's where there aren't many women in finance, so I better go and see what's going on there.
And where did you do your degree at?
The University of New South Wales.
Yeah, right. I did economics first year, but I struggled with the microeconomics. I didn't mind the macro, but the micro, oh my goodness.
I was struggling the whole way through. I mean, Mum was like, "You've just got to finish it. You can go and be creative, but just get that under your belt." And I'm like, all right. Yeah. But I was really, I took a subject called, I remember, an alternative approach to economics, and which actually was a really life-changing subject. But I was often restless because there were so many assumptions sitting in those economic models that I would question straight up, like, you'll maximise your utility or your happiness if you maximise your consumption. And
yes,
I'd just be like,
your output.
Or the economy is, forever growing. And I'm like, that's just not sustainable if we're going to have that mindset. Yeah. So I was always restless
So I wonder then, in looking back, and not to dig too deep down this line, but when you look at the pieces, looking back, do you find that somehow has slotted into what you've gone on to do and it's actually been of use, or maybe helped you sort of get some clarity around the things that you were interested in?
Yeah, 100%. I think that questioning of what we're conditioned with definitely set me up to go and wander into the desert and then start learning from our, Aboriginal brothers and sisters, for sure.
Yeah. So your gut was like, this is not quite right. real restlessness, and I can
also
understand that.
going
I
into the
jumped
bank.
into psychology instead because it wasn't for me either. I was like, this
And I
is not
remember
for me. But
being
you did go into Macquarie Bank,
I
didn't
did,
you?
yeah, I did. I went into corporate finance. So I was
Yeah.
like the total extreme, like, where, floating companies and, watching
wow.
people become, millionaires as they're selling their,
Oh, yes. We
stake
all
in
know
the
about
company.
Macquarie employees, don't we? And the golden handcuffs that happen. Yeah.
That's right. And then I just remember also sitting in those offices and so far removed from nature. Like, it really would be like, wow, it's like the sunlight's not coming through, it's artificial. And I'd often I was quite naughty, I'd often take the things I needed to research and learn, and I'd just go sit in the park outside and, sitting in my suits, and I was just like, what am I or I'd be writing poems where I could in like Excel spreadsheets whilst I'd do my research, and I'd be like, I just need something creative to do.
That creative was always just seeping
pushing
up.
Yeah.
How long were you in the finance industry?
I did some summers at Macquarie. I did not last long. I think 1 year in corporate finance, because we had the tech wreck at the time. So that's when there was that internet bubble. So it kind of all, paused basically, and so we're all sitting there a bit like, well, we're not floating companies at the moment.
Wow.
So then I kind of took that opportunity to ask my boss, do you think I could go study film in New York maybe for 4 weeks? And it was like he had two heads, and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I just think nothing's happening. I'll just take my 4 weeks off now if that's okay. Luckily, he said yes. I don't know what. I hadn't even been there a year, so bless his socks, he let me go.
Wow. So we're listening to Melanie Hogan, local filmmaker of Avalon, and tell us a bit about your films. You've made so many, and I'm just homage to the beautiful enlightenment and education. Particularly, I saw your Kanyini film, and it just blew me away because you've been able to get hold of really old, so many beautiful photos that we never got exposed to the true history of our First Nations. Well, I didn't anyway at school. And so tell us a bit about your films here. You've got Kanyini. Tell us about Nuntu Nin and Yajilarra and Tristan, Stolen Generations Testimonies. Talk to us about these films, because it's just amazing what you've done.
Thanks. That's very sweet. Kanyini definitely was the pinnacle, I reckon. It happened to, and it was my first, with Uncle Bob Randall, who was an Anagul man living beside Uluru at the time. That film came from me becoming acutely aware that I had no Aboriginal friends. And I'd travelled through my university kind of grants and things. I'd been to Nepal, and I'd been, studying over there and spending time with local people, and then coming home to Australia, just why was I not taking that same openness and learning from other cultures here? And I'm like, I have no Aboriginal friends. It's too strange. It's too strange.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
All these Australians, we all go off to Indonesia and Bali and Thailand and Vietnam, but we're not, that curiosity is not.
I think it's because
it's getting better.
The older I'm getting now, I think what's happened is propaganda. I think in the early part of the Australian history, they would have had to have used propaganda to turn people away from Aboriginal people, because how can you justify it? There was an agenda. So when you don't have an agenda, you come in with friendship, because no one's trying to gain anyone from anything. You're not trying to take or exploit or extract. You're just trying to go, who are you and who am I and what can I learn and what can I teach or whatever. But if you have an agenda, you've got to use a tool to justify it. So I think it's the propaganda, and I think that's how it started. And so I'm a little bit rebellious, and I'm not really a big fan of propaganda, and I ignore a lot of propaganda. And I think that's what happened. I was like, I just don't think we've been told the right story. And I just followed my heart, and then I found this one book in the library, in the Mitchell Library, and it was called Songman. It was written by Uncle Bob Randall from Uluru. He was a member of the Stolen Generations. And in that, one of the early chapters of the book, he talked about Kanyini. And Kanyini is this principle of wholeness and caring for everything that is around you, including yourself. So being caring and being responsible for life. That's actually what it means. And it's when I read it, I was just like, I kind of felt intuitively, I knew there was wisdom. I knew it. You know, there's so many Aussies running up to, you know, India, and there's wisdom there, and into Buddhist circles, and there's wisdom there. But I was just like, no, it's also here. And it's actually
the
oldest living
land
culture.
and culture.
And
it's
how
here.
lucky are we that...
Yeah.
I mean, we literally only arrived a second ago.
Minutes.
Our Western culture. There's so much to learn. So I wrote a letter to the publisher actually back then, and I wrote a kind of a heartfelt letter to Uncle Bob, and I'm like, haven't got many friends. You know, I hadn't at that stage. I think I met one Aboriginal person by that stage. I had made a little more of an effort, and I was like, could I possibly come and spend time with you? And he called me on the phone maybe 3 days after I sent the letter. He's like, come up. And I was like, I'm coming, definitely. I had no kids then. I'm like, I'm on the plane, I'm gone. And I went straight up to Uluru. I must have been 22 or something at the time. And he came and picked me up from the youth hostel, and he was so warm. And he's like, you're not staying in this youth hostel. Come and stay with our family over in Mutijulu, which was the community next to Uluru. And I was like, oh, I'd love to. So, in with my backpack. And I just remember feeling so ignorant because there was Pitjantjatjara language being spoken. I couldn't speak one word. And I was a real lover of languages when I was in high school. Yeah. So I was like, how do I not know any Aboriginal language? And the poverty was stark, and Uncle Bob patiently let me ask millions of questions, because then with him and I kind of chatting for, I think it must have been 3 weeks at that time, I was starting to see that a lot of the poverty and the sadness was just symptomatic of Kanyini being broken.
Yes.
And so I said to Uncle Bob, do you reckon it kind of was an organic way of coming to be this film. And in the end, we wanted to tell the story of Australia through a breaking down of this philosophy of connectedness. Yeah. And that Kanyini philosophy is actually... it resonates with non-Aboriginal people when you sit down and think about it or totally. Feel it.
Yeah, I love it. Say it again, the Kanyini philosophy.
It's like being caring and responsible for life. And that means being responsible for family, which is bigger than just your biological family. It's the animals, it's the plants, because Indigenous worldview is family is all that is alive.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yes, and same with the Indian.
Correct. Yeah, this is Indigenous.
It's
Indigenous people are the ones that still hold what I think is the way human beings are in a natural place. We've just been conditioned down the wrong bush track, as Uncle Bob would say all the time. You're going down the wrong bush track, come back.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it was so cute. So to family, to your home, so Walcha, to your Nura, your home. So Walcha is family, Nura is home, and then Kurumpa is spirit. So Kurumpa is spirit, and then Jukuba for them was their law that comes from the land. So a kind of belief system you're connected to. But, it's just if you can care and be responsible for all those aspects, then you're going to feel like a whole person.
Wow.
So that's what all these personal development programs are about. There's so much online that, we're trying to tap into all of that. And exactly as you to your point is it's all here. That wisdom has been in this ecosystem now, and it's in Australia. Yeah. And I love that for whatever reason, as a 22-year-old, you're unlike your counterparts
at Macquarie Bank.
Yeah, you're
did you
throw this desire to go out and meet Uncle Bob?
Did you? I just love just to go back on that quickly. Did you end up then after doing your 4-week filmmaking course, just throw the job in at Macquarie? No. You came back.
I rang them and said, reckon I could do 8 weeks. And they're like, oh, you are, yes, okay, stay there for 8 weeks. And then when I came back, I'd met this fellow in America who was an amazing filmmaker, like award-winning, and he's like, you really should think about going to theatre school to work with actors, even though I was sitting in a film school. I was like, okay, all right, I'll go to NIDA. I'll go and do directing at NIDA. And I was like, okay. So I remember applying and creating this theatre set, because you had to have like it in 3D, coming to Macquarie Bank, catching a taxi that day. I think I was living in Coogee at that time, and coming in and taking my massive theatre set through the glass, like opening doors, trying not to get it crushed, hiding it in the toilet at corporate finance. And then, like, it's lunchtime. I made sure I had an interview at that time, jumping back and grabbing it, coming out of corporate finance, jumping in the taxi, going to do my interview, coming back. Anyway, I got in. So there was 6 of us that got in for directing. And then I had to tell my boss, I'm going to NIDA. And he's like, what's that?
Oh,
like,
wow.
That's how. So I lasted another
started.
2 months after, I think.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're listening to Melanie Hogan, film producer, filmmaker and producer really, but filmmaker from Avalon. Wonderful stories. We're on Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3. We're going to go to one of your favourite songs right now. And Mel, tell us about Wangina.
Wangina. Yeah. I know all those beautiful Aboriginal words.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song. It's actually created by Mark Colesmith, who's an amazing actor. That's his DJ artistic name. Kalaji. It is on Spotify. I just love this music. It takes me into, like, I just want to be in country and hear it and slow down, which is, go slow.
You're listening to Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3. Maz, you're about to go into a little commercial for us, aren't you?
Absolutely. Now, have you all heard of Bushlink? It's a not-for-profit disability group, and they're just making headlines. They are busy improving our environment and teaching bush care throughout our local community. Bushlink employs adults with intellectual disabilities who love working outdoors and run projects that focus on social inclusion. Without government funding, help is needed to keep this important program running. So please help and donate today. To find out how you can assist, visit www.bushlink.org.au or call Bushlink on 9905 5804. You're listening to Radio Northern Beaches 90.3 and 88.7.
And the special show you're listening to today is Grit Diaries with Mon and Maz, and we're very grateful. We've got Melanie Hogan here today, local filmmaker from Avalon, who has done just such a beautiful list of beautiful films, which I encourage you to go to her Instagram. What is your Instagram, Mel?
Melanie Hogan Filmmaker.
Melanie Hogan Filmmaker. And you'll find all the beautiful listed films there, and there's just so many. And we'll hear a little bit too. You've worked so much with our First Nations people with so many films. I'm curious. I haven't seen Stolen Generation Testimonies. You might tell us a bit about that one.
Yeah. So if we go back to that idea of Kanyini, Uncle Bob and I thought, well, the line to family, to Walcher, has been broken through that Stolen Generations policy. And so we were quite inspired by Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, where they'd recorded testimonies of Holocaust survivors. So then we decided, well, we really kind of need to do the same thing with our survivors of the stolen generations. So that was a project that we got off the ground. The Kevin Rudd government supported it at the time, as well as Rio Tinto, actually, and the Hunt Foundation. So we went around Australia and we recorded, I think, 46 testimonies from all parts of Australia of people who had been stolen. And it was really, really... It was a privileged position to be in as a filmmaker. I certainly would be crying behind the camera, listening to the people remembering when they were taken.
The pain.
Interestingly, the other part of the story is the mums. So the mums often weren't around, right? And so we do hear some not enough, but we hear the stories of the people who were taken. But now I'm a mum.
Yeah.
I often just can't believe
gut-wrenching.
Such a heinous thing to do.
Oh, I just, my son recently just had an operation and I could feel it in my body while he was at Northern Beaches Hospital. Like I physically thought I was going to vomit. And so can you imagine your children being stolen, like just ripped away from you?
Yeah, and not knowing what's happened to them, and it's horrific, absolutely horrific.
So talking about, you've obviously felt so deeply right in the bottom of the base chakra of your belly, you felt you had to do more, and you've set up a foundation. Tell us a bit about the foundation, Melanie.
Yeah, so we still have the Stolen Generations Testimonies Foundation, which holds those testimonies, and that's still there. So if you do go to stolengenerationstestimonies.com, that's a really, really good resource that will hopefully keep us healing as a nation as we hear the stories of survivors. But
Great.
I've also set up another foundation called the Leanne Foundation with Nigina elder Victor Hunter, and that's West Kimberley country.
Wow.
And he really inspired me. I've known Vic for 20 years. We met in Mutijulu when I was making Kanyini. He just came through one day to visit Uncle Bob, and he made me laugh so much. We've stayed friends ever since. It's the funniest friendship. He's 80.
Yeah.
He's lived in remote communities in the Kimberley his whole life. I'm like 47, coming from Sydney, you know, very privileged background. Like we are
blonde hair and blue
chalk.
eyes.
Not a link
We
up
are
you'd
like
expect
chalk. We are like chalk and cheese, and we giggle so much because we just look at each other and go, look at our meat costumes, they're so different, and yet we get along so well.
Do you know what laughing does between two people? No. It's a sign of we are one, and we belong, we are one, you know. And
so cool.
Certainly Maz and I laughed so much trying to even learn the technical side of radio, didn't we? We just got
that's been the magic. That's been the magic, is the laughter and the giggles.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had this dream about 10. Well, I wanted to move away from documentaries into more kind of commercial filmmaking, because everything I was learning, if I put it in docos, that's fabulous, but it's still limited audiences. So I was kind of going, how do I share what I'm learning with bigger audiences? I'm going to have to go into like a feature film or TV land or something. So I had a meeting with someone quite high up in the film distribution world, and he's like, you got to do a comedy. Aussies love comedy. And I'm like, but I'm not funny. I can write a story, but I am not funny. But I'm like, but I do know someone who's funny. You know, my friend who I met on the Vic. So I rang Vic. He's up in the Kimberley, and I'm like, Vic, do you want to write a story with me? And he's like, what? I'm not in film. I'm like, look, just trust me. I've got that feeling it's going to be okay. So I was like, what are you up to at the moment? And he's like, well, I've just taken a group down from the Kimberleys down to Perth, because I want them to build their own homes. I want to design it with them, and I want to get them to build it. And that way we'll work on the kind of unemployment piece as well as the housing crisis. And we've just been to see Fiona Stanley, and the boys were like shocked that her name was on the building and she's still alive. And, you know, a lot of them couldn't do read and write, and they got lost in the city. And I was just kind of going,
That's
I think there's something
itself.
in this. It's like, we'll tell a story of them trying to build their own house, you know, that is culturally appropriate, and it's going to be, you know, a disaster. And I could just feel it. And I was like, come on, we'll do it. And he's like, all right, we'll do it. So we just started writing. And then as it happened, we had fabulous support from Keith Thompson, who wrote The Sapphires with Tony Briggs, and Wayne Blair, who directed The Sapphires. And they were just so encouraging. And Lisa Scott, who's an amazing producer, who, everyone's just surrounding us, Screen Australia. So it's still in development, but whilst that film's there and it's our vision, when we were kind of showing people the script, they were like, is this inspired by real life? And I'm like, no, this is what we hope to inspire after the film's made, that we can solve a lot of these issues. And one of our lawyers said, you should just do it now. Just don't wait for the film. Just run it in parallel. Do the charity, build that house. So that's what we did. So now we have this Leanne Foundation. We're working with the Pandanus Park community up in the West Kimberley. We've had an architect working with us to do culturally appropriate designed houses. We literally took the designs up about a month ago to get the feedback.
Yeah.
It's a really different looking house. And if all the stars aligned, let's see, wouldn't it be amazing if the house that we put in our film actually works in real life? So we have a commercial film with social impact. That would be amazing.
Well, that's you, really, isn't it? You've come from Macquarie Bank, and you're now really involved in social impact. You've brought both of your life skills into one. It's beautiful. And tell us a bit more about your advice for young filmmakers out there, or what any tips or anything? Because yes, you went to NIDA, which is great, but you said you didn't really go the traditional filmmaking way.
No, I mean, the great thing about going to NIDA and doing directing is you get immersed in story. It's all about story. You're honouring story, and sometimes I actually think human beings, before money, we use story to really inform us and grow us. So I think we kind of got to go back to remembering how sacred story is as a medium. So definitely immersing yourself in story is great. And then I think if you just continue to be, I was always curious. So I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to, I was a networker. I definitely going through NIDA, I became close to lots of actors and actresses, and I met a lot of people at the film school who were doing, cinematography. So I did surround myself with people with those technical skills, but I also tried to teach myself as much as possible. So
there's a lot of local actors and actresses also around Avalon, isn't it, where you live? So I'd imagine you've formed some friendship. It's all about friendship, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I love, Mel, what you're sort of showcasing too, just through your own journey and your story, that for the listeners out there that are considering, a creative form of, a career pathway, that yours wasn't the traditional trajectory, go to NIDA straight out of school, follow a particular pathway, that it actually was that burning desire that you had in yourself, and I guess it was that restlessness that was really the catalyst for you going to explore it. It just kept bubbling up, even though you sort of did the economics, the commerce, went down that trajectory, which still has its place and has so much value in what you do now. Yeah. So nothing's ever a waste.
Yeah.
But just for the listeners out there, that even if you found that you're coming into things later in life or you don't feel like you fit the mould, if you're listening to that inner...
The Lian. Follow your Lian. That's the Nigana word, the Lian Foundation. It's like follow your deep, deep sense of spirit, really. Just
your Dharma.
Thank you for
your true north.
Yeah, and in our society, we turn that off. I certainly turned it off for a long period of my life. I didn't even understand it, and I love that you at such a young age, you knew it. You listened to it. You took a gamble on yourself, really.
Yeah, I mean, what could you lose? Just go back.
It.
You just go back to the bank. I actually do remember sitting.
There's always going to be
floor.
a bank, isn't there?
There's a bank.
I just remember sitting on the floor with my beautiful dad, and I'd been kind of working on Kanyini and, teaching myself how to edit. And he's like, it's been a while now, you've graduated from NIDA, you've been doing this for a while. What are you actually planning to do? And I'm like, yeah, I know. Just give me one more month. In my head, if it doesn't get anywhere in one more month, I'll go back. I'll go back to the bank. No problem. Don't panic. Yeah. And I remember and I was like sitting there literally cross-legged, and I finished cutting it, and then I remember I wrote an email to George Negus's, sadly he's passed away recently, but his partner at the time, Kirsty, I wrote to her, and I was like, I've made this film and wondering if George could. I was really bolshy, to be honest. Whatever I wrote, George was knocking on my door after he'd done a Triple M radio interview, and he graciously sat down and watched this beautiful Kanyini, which I'd cut in my house I taught myself how to edit, and he was just like, what did that fella say? Oh my gosh, that's so wise, because Uncle Bob Randall is just so amazing.
Yeah.
Wisdom.
Pause, writing down, pause. Oh my gosh, writing. This is great. Like, you've got to do something with this. And I was like, okay. It ended up, I kept just writing to people, and just those next few weeks, I had Peter Garrett rocking up on my door to watch it. I had Sam Worthington came and watched it. I mean, it was just, Governor General invited Bob and I down to Canberra to watch it, and I'm literally in Government House with Bob, and we're watching it with the Governor General, Michael Jeffries, and his wife. Yeah. It's just straight. And then I came home feeling like, okay, I'm going to just write to Hopscotch and say, I've just been down to Government House. Would you like to see this film? I took a DVD down to Hopscotch in Surrey Hills, knocked on the door. My friend Rachel O'Kine at the time, she's like, you are like pushy in a really nice way. Like, it's hard to say no. I was like, would you please watch this? Then one day later she called and said, we'll distribute it. I mean, it was just that is not normally the way a film works.
But it's any project that comes about is the ingredients that it takes to actually move the needle is that boldness, doing things a little bit out of the box.
Trusting yourself.
Yeah, and against
backing
other
yourself.
voices.
Don't listen to others. Just go for it, girl. Look, Melanie, we're with Melanie Hogan, and she's a local filmmaker from Avalon. Very grateful to hear her on Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3. Look, as far as your knowledge of our First Nations people and languages, just it sort of flows out of you now, because you've been spending years and years now, 20, 25 years, really spending time. What's your advice for any average Aussie that really, we've all got to get to know our First Nations people more. We've all got to find more understanding, because it's through understanding and it leads to huge compassion. And so what are your tips, Mel, on what we do there?
Well, if I look at my own life, it started with opening a book.
Yes,
I opened
reading.
up Songman, and that's what made me want to write to Uncle Bob, I guess. Or if you see any... Actually, I also, when I think about it, there was actually an invitation at Macquarie Bank now on that intranet. It was like, go to Port Augusta. There's a community there trying to raise money for a bus. So I also went down there. It's around that same time.
Okay, yeah.
So if I would say one or two
Corporates
things,
can do things,
yes,
right, to help.
If you see that invitation
Yes.
somewhere in your life,
Yes.
I encourage
Take
you
it.
to take
Say
it.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
say
yes, yes.
And then if your heart's sparked, I can promise you there's so much out there. Once your curiosity is sparked, start with books, because you might not feel comfortable going straight away and wanting to be friends, but just trust. I think if you come from a heartfelt, pure space of friendship, because sometimes I used to think, gosh, if Governor Arthur Phillip had just put out his hand and said, hey, g'day, who are you, what can I learn? And, it just, the whole history would have been different. But that's the past we have, like, right now. And the antithesis of colonisation is friendship. So right now we can shift it. We can shift the energy, and we go...
I love it. Antithesis of colonisation is friendship.
And you can change
it's so
it now.
true. So true.
Yeah. So we don't, and that means when you become friends, it's like, I've learnt, how do you care for country? What is it? Like, we're all part of this land. We're all alive. We're all family. We have to take care of country together. The value systems are so different to Western mindset that there is a real beautiful fusion that's possible. And now my life is a real example of that. So had an amazing lawman come and visit, the week before last. I put it on my Instagram. We were walking on Bangali Head together, and he was just kind of sitting down on the rock, and he's like, we can't teach you guys spirituality, it takes time. You got to sit and feel country. And he had this fabulous idea where he was like, how you guys go to the gym 3 times a week? Sit on country 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Just sit
Yeah.
and feel it.
And feel
how
connected.
Blessed are we in the Northern Beaches.
Yeah.
You find so many places just to sit on country.
What did you say before? There's no reason to have a bad day on the Northern Beaches, is there?
No.
There's plenty of places to immerse yourself in. Yeah. And so what are other tips? So I love the idea of friendship, and really encourage our listeners at Radio Northern Beaches to think of ways that they can get connected. I know I love the listening to Koori Radio. That helps me, and I think Stan Grant bought a great app called the Wiradjuri app. So I often look up words that I can learn that are from our First Nations people. I know Tranby College in Glebe, it's a great college to help Indigenous people get jobs, want to partner all the time with businesses. We're about the Women's Resilience Centre in Monavale is starting to match mentors. And Tranby College said we want white mentors. We want this friendship to start.
Yeah, Uncle Vic often talks about that. He's like, we've got to do it together. Like, it doesn't matter. This is a great thing he taught me. He was like, for too long we've been travelling like railway lines side by side and never meeting. We've got to come together and learn from each other.
So true.
Beautiful, beautiful. You're on the Grit Diaries Mon and Maz show. We're lucky to have Melanie Hogan, our local filmmaker from Avalon. And I want to hear a bit, Mel, about... tell us a bit more about one of your more recent films that I'm really excited to share, Female Forces, the story about Carla Zampatti. I happen to be sitting in it. I only own one piece of Carla Zampatti, but I happen to be sitting in it. I do love this little jacket. It gives me some sort of strength. I think it's more knowing Carla and what she stood for.
Yeah.
And you can talk a bit about that, because you're very aligned. You stand for so many things around female empowerment, or everybody's empowerment, really, and recognising deeply and understanding our Indigenous culture. Tell us a bit more about your film, The Female Forces.
Yeah, it is a fun project. It's ongoing, actually. So Alex Schumann, who's Carla's son, and an amazing gentleman, man, he really is continuing his mother's legacy to empower women. And he came to me one day after he saw Kanyini, and he was like, the way you kind of shifted that consciousness around our First Nations people, can you do that for women? And I was like, whoa, that's a big brief. I wouldn't even know how to tackle that. Let's try and work it out together. So we met for a series of lunches over 12 months, and we would read a lot of text together. We would go, I'd say, let's read Female Eunuch and let's pull it apart. Let's see if we want to make a film like going down that kind of path. And he was awesome. He really dived in because I love co-creating.
Yeah, Alex is wonderful. He supported the Women's Resilience Centre from the beginning. As soon as he heard about us, he was like, let's support you. Yep. Always giving us lots of free Carla Zampatti, I can't even say it, suits, Carla Zampatti suits for auctioning off and things like that, which is really kind.
So then we kind of decided that, I'm a big believer in bringing wisdom to the fore. So I see film as an instrument to do that. And I said, why don't we try doing something different, not long form. Let's try Instagram. There's a new medium around, and let's bring two women together who hold each other's space and support each other. So there's this natural sisterhood feeling going across, and we'll get them to talk about their wisdom, whatever their expertise is. Let's pull out their wisdom to help other women. So it's like wisdom, and it can also be for men too. There are some beautiful things that are said that would, make, everybody go, wow, that's really, really wise. So we've had a number of people already, coming into our format. We've had Melissa Doyle with Christine Michaels, who is the CEO of LJ Hooker. We've had Julie Bishop.
I saw, yes.
Yeah. Edwina McCann, who, really high up in Vogue. She was the editor of Vogue for a long time. She's still involved there. And we've just had, amazing women. Kat the Lightworker, who was a really interesting person.
Kat the Lightworker?
Yeah, I'd never heard of her, but she was through Vogue that people lean in on her for. She's like a spiritual healer. She's a beautiful, powerful woman who just empowers other women. So the feeling of these small clips is to get bite-sized pieces of wisdom from women. But also if I zoom out, I think it's our Indigenous peoples and women's voices and natures that probably haven't been, held up enough. So
that's clearly a running theme in your life, about bringing to the forefront the wisdom and where those wisdoms come from. You're seeing the overlap of, the Indigenous world, what we can really, glean from all of that and use, and our society is craving that, going back to wisdom, with so much distraction and seeing the things that are idolized or that's the way to go. But we intuitively need that wisdom, and I love that you're linking the modern day wisdom, the support of women and what women can be in a supportive environment. And thank you so much for showcasing that and using your incredible, as my mum would say, your gifts and your talents to really drive this.
Your Dharma. And we're listening to Melanie Hogan of Avalon, and she's a fabulous filmmaker. And I said famous. She goes, I'm not famous, but listen to all these films she's made. It's just great. Famous. Please go to her Instagram and have a look at it. And I think it's interesting too about women. Let's talk just briefly about this. My mother always said, never trust women, right? Now it's breeding this mad philosophy, and it was generations that sort of did that. Maybe it was men that did that so that women would not be empowered. And I think we've got to say no. When people say that, we say that is not true. And I still remember after I had my two children, I said to my mum, and I'd had my business 20 years, Mum, that is not a philosophy that's true. Women have had my back. They have my back. I disagree with you completely. And I think doing films like what you're doing with Carla Zampatti, who stood for so much, is just so exciting. This film, Female Voices, I can't wait to watch it and to see how you've shown women sharing friendship beautiful friendship. This sort of your theme, I think, today, isn't it?
Yes.
Friendship and curiosity and seeking knowledge, and how important it is. Do you want to make a comment on that?
I just feel like women, again, I just remember Uncle Bob always saying, you've gone down the wrong bush track.
Bush track, I love that.
I mean, I'm getting close to 50, and I think if I zoom out a little bit about the feminist movement, I think the search for equality of the sexes probably was driven actually by a deep longing of women to feel loved. And I think for me, women represent unconditional love, and that's our superpower. And I think if women can go back to who we really are, I think men have had a lot of, power, and they've forgotten that women are actually the source of unconditional love. And if men can tap back into that superpower, it actually is brilliant for them. It's brilliant for us. Because then we go back to the inside of that deep bit of our, we carry babies, we give birth. That womb is such a sacred space. And I think if we can go back to remembering who we are, and, with the Indigenous world, you just peel back all the layers of the Western mindset and you go back to nature, back to country, and you just remember in that simple space who we really are. We're alive on this earth, and go back to seeing the beauty and the awe of being alive. Same, go back to the beauty and the awe of being in a female form and a male form, and how can we dance together?
Oh, yes.
And I think come back to that, start women remembering we are love. We are unconditional love. And we just got to remind each other of that, and then go, hey guys, I think we've all gone down the wrong bush track. Come back.
We've gone down the wrong bush track.
I'm borrowing that.
Yeah.
It's the best.
I'm going down the wrong bush track, and it's just,
So we need to thank Uncle Bob for that.
Yeah,
so much
I
we
want to
can
meet
learn.
Sadly, Bob.
Sadly, he's passed away.
No.
So sad. Yeah, his daughter and his grandchildren are still carrying that amazing spiritual, essence that he had.
And what a gift that you're sharing that here, and we're learning about his wisdom and a way to language things and have a little bit of lightness about it too.
Yeah.
And really coming back to ourselves and our true nature. And, without these stories, without this history, we'd run the risk of really going very far down the wrong bush track.
Yeah.
And it's, as we've talked about before, it's almost like the pendulum is sort of swinging back a little bit, because there's only so far we can go away from who we intrinsically are.
Our essence.
And there are these things that, as I get goosebumps just talking about it, that our nature is pulling us back.
Yeah.
And there are people like you showcasing and giving us, in a modern day mediums, Instagram, using it, for good, and all the other platforms that you use to be able to bring us back. Because, as you say, we are unconditional love. And this is your way of expressing unconditional love, because you care so much to create these formats.
Wouldn't it be beautiful if at school everyone's had that mantra in the morning that the children would say, I am unconditional love, and we're going to unconditionally love others and find compassion, just understanding and being with people and having friendship and laughing. We just talked about laughing means we belong, and if we just did more of that, which is just what we're meant to do, right? Yeah. And then there'd be so much less of war and all these other mad things that are going on right now. Yeah. So when we go to wisdom, like one of our things at the Grit Diaries for Mon and Maz is we really want to hear from you, Melanie Hogan, about what is your wisdom? What is the wisdom you'd love to share? My yoga teacher says there's only three things we have to do. Our Northern Beaches radio, on radio, Fabio Fabri, if anyone knows him, he says there's three things we should do. We need to listen to our elders, we need to tread softly, and then we need to pass on our learnings. And tell us about that. You've gone out and listened to the elders of our First Nations people, and you do tread softly. You've got a beautiful style about you. You're just, you're just like to me, a beautiful kind of pixie kind of you just float in whenever I see you. You just sort of float in. And just tell us about what your learnings are to pass on.
Three things come to mind. Follow your lian. That's a really big one.
Follow your Leon.
Follow your heart, we
Follow
would
your
say, but
heart.
go deep, deep down. Just listen to yourself. Follow
Yeah.
your Leon. If it doesn't feel right, just, it's because you've come off your Leon. Come back. Second thing I remember Dorothea Randall, Bob teaching, his daughter taught me just recently because I just went to Uluru. She's like, Mel, you're a chatterbox sometimes, and she says it with such love. She says, you're such a little chatterbox. Just calm down, and when you want to speak from your heart. It has more power.
Love it.
I just remember thinking, that's a good one.
Speak from your heart. Love
and
it.
I still have to practice it.
Yeah.
Because Western mind is chat.
What do they say? He who speaks the least is considered the wisest.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one I remember Bob telling me, it was such a cute way of saying this. He's like, sometimes I think we've got to think more about the owlsness, not the mindness. So owlsness, meaning owls. Collective. Let's think about we a little bit more than I. And, that is Indigenous as well, to be traditional Indigenous, way more collective. So I think that will bring a lot more peace inside of ourselves if we think about we and how we fit into the we rather than always I.
The owlsness. I like that.
And it is that pendulum swinging back, and it's in a gentle way, not a you're thinking the wrong way, but it's just that gentle remember we in everything.
And I'm really, the other thing I've been contemplating is how force is so not cool. Like the way you said gentle, like when things are going to be sustainable and lasting and from the heart, they're not forced. So if something is forced, I reckon we've got to actually go, is this okay? No matter what it is, just think about like that energy of force. I don't know. There's a lot going on in the world that uses force.
It needs to be flow, right? It's
got to be flow.
Flow.
And it's
and
very hard
don't
to
you?
sit in that.
We knew this was going to flow. I was so looking forward to seeing you today, Melanie Hogan.
Oh, so sweet.
Look, we're listening to Melanie Hogan on Radio Northern Beaches. So to find you, let's just say that one more time. How do we find you, Melanie?
You can go to Melanie Hogan filmmaker on Instagram, or you can actually go to melaniehogan.com.
And to find your latest films or any of your films?
Come onto my Insta for sure.
On your Insta,
or LinkedIn.
Melanie Hogan or LinkedIn, and you'll find her beautiful films, particularly all the deep richness of the Indigenous films you've created, and more recently Female Forces. So really excited to have you here. It's been an absolute delight.
You for having me.
What a treat, just hearing from you, Mel, and, to be in the film industry and to be creating such meaningful, impactful work. It's such just a thrill to see that coming about, and thank you.
Thank you.
Australia, the lucky country. We've got meat pies. We've got the world's best beer. But most importantly, top of the list, we've got Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3. Now hitting the entire world on www.rnb.org.au.